If you live here in Australia and you're a property investor, you have probably heard people go on about the 6.6% growth rate we have here in Australia. Look, ideally, what people are looking for, the mum and dad investors when they're investing is a 6.6% growth rate or a capital growth rate per year on their property of about 7%. If you're in a really great area, and say like Bondi Beach in Sydney or Tamarama or Manly on the northern beaches or any sort of blue chip area like that, your property will generally go up by, in excess of 7% per annum, right? And that's just what Australians hold on to as their rule of thumb. They go, okay, properties double every 7 to 10 years. That's just it. But the reality is most of the actual successful investors that I come into contact with, they just pretty much cross this thing right out. They just go like, just whatever, like that. Don't even worry about that. Because the type of properties they're investing in, funnily enough, are actually getting better growth rates than that. And no, they don't get a better growth rate on that year on year on year, but they're just finding properties that don't double every 10 years, 7 to 10 years. They're finding properties that are doubling every 2 to 4 years, that sort of thing. And that goes into the actual research that is done to assess the area that you're going to invest in, right? And why am I saying this? It's just plastered out there everywhere in the media. Properties double every 7 to 10 years. Properties double every 7 to 10 years here in Australia. And it's a really nice thing to like hold on to and say that that's what happens. But the reality is properties especially in different markets, property prices fluctuate all over the place, right? But depending on the market, you can look back over a 30-year history of any sort of market and you can get an idea of what that area's growth rate is, okay? And there's a stat out there that InvestorKit has put out, who's a buyer's agency here in Australia, and they're a very research-based buyer's agency. They put out a stat that basically says 90% of properties here in Australia are growing at a 5% compounding rate per year, over 90% of properties. So effectively what they're saying is it's very hard. I guess their point's either it's very hard to make a mistake in property, or it's very hard to find properties that are in the growth rate of compounding growth rate of over 7%, right? So basically, the way I invest is I think about three things. I think about one, my cash on cash return. And this is an investment lens a lot of people don't put on when they're investing in property, but it's an investment decision. So you should think about investing through an investment lenses. And what the lens I look at the property through is, what is my cash on cash return? What is my cash flow? And when I say cash flow, I mean, what is my positive cash flow, okay? And the third, what are the long-term growth potential of this property? Now look, I think investing in an area which has cash flow and the potential for the property to double in a short space of time, less than 10 years, is the best way to invest. Why do I think that? Because for me, when I started investing, I didn't have a large deposit and I didn't have a large income. And investing, if I invested in properties that were getting a 7%, like a blue chip area, in properties that were getting a 7% return per year, one, I would need to come up with a deposit which was at least 3 times as large. And for me, on a low income, it was very hard for me to save. And 2, my property portfolio would only be 5 years old, so it wouldn't have even doubled yet. So I guess when I started investing, the maximum amount of money I could borrow was around $500,000. So if I bought a $500,000 property in a blue chip area, if we're very, very lucky, it might be worth $1 million now. But what I focus on, what I've learned to focus on through investing is buy properties that are going to give you a good cash flow, because that cash flow will help you increase, buy more properties. It will help you increase and get to the next property. If you're buying properties that are in blue chip areas that are negative cash flow, you are going to need to increase your personal income at your job. You're going to need to get a raise. You're going to need to get a promotion. You're going to need to work more hours to grow your property portfolio. When the much easier option, in my opinion, is to just grow your property portfolio's income. Okay, so forget about the 6.6% capital growth rate. Okay, forget about it, because you want to use the growth from your portfolio and the cash flow from your portfolio to grow your portfolio, not the other way around, because the other way around is not financial freedom. You having to constantly increase your income to get to financial freedom just seems like another route to, jump on the wheel of the rat race. Okay, so the reason you want to invest is to get out of the rat race. So invest, and the fastest way to do that is invest in growth areas that are doubling every 3 to 5 years. And also cash flowing properties will help you grow your property portfolio larger. And thirdly, this is the most important thing, cash on cash return, right? There's a big difference between you investing in a property and you being able to get your initial capital input back in a space of 3 months versus 1 year, okay? The person that's getting their money back in a space of 3 months is effectively having 3 to 4 more opportunities to buy and grow their property portfolio and each time growing it to the next level. Whereas the person that is getting back their property, getting back their cash on cash return every year is only having that one opportunity to grow their portfolio to the next level. So, when I started investing, I was on 60K income. And from there, I grew my property portfolio with me and my wife to what it is today, which is an 11 property portfolio. And the reason we've been able to grow it so far to this level is because of the actual rental incomes that are attached to the properties, okay? And the fact we're getting very quick cash on cash returns on our properties, okay? Anyway, guys, hopefully this one helped. See ya.